Yeah, I can hear you well now.
Perfect, perfect,
Perfect.
perfect,
What's
sir.
up, yeah? First
Are
of all,
we
I must
all good?
congratulate you. This is beautiful interface. Absolutely loved it. I've seen so many products in the same genre. Nothing comes close in terms of the user interface and the user delight. Congratulations on that.
No, no, thank you so much, but I don't want to take the credit for something that the team has done. I'm just an angel with them. How have you been,
Absolutely.
sir? How has life been
I've
in the
been well.
lockdown
I've been well,
phase?
yeah. I've been well. Good to connect after such a long time.
After a very long time, I think almost after 2, 3 years now it's been, Akshay, since we have connected
Absolutely.
last.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think. So how's the life been during the lockdown phase?
Good yaar. As they say, my favorite quote around these times today is that you can get ahead of the car in front only when it's raining. And right now it's pouring, man. So there's never been a better time for digital businesses to get ahead of brick and mortar businesses and build a reckoning for themselves.
Fantastic, fantastic. Actually, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of these other weather and other things, but let me get straight dive into the discussion. I think a lot of viewers also want to listen to your insights. So, with your permission, Akshay, do
Sure.
we get started?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure. Akshay, would you like to talk to us about what motivated you to start Leverage? Would you like to take us around the outlook of the market? What used to happen before Leverage was introduced to the ecosystem?
Hmm.
Over to you. Share your thoughts here, sir.
Sure. Sure. So let me give you a quick summary. We started on a very different avatar compared to what we are today, and we started off primarily given. I was really excited about mentorship always. Back in the day when I was about 17 years old, I joined this organization called ISEC, which was the de facto organization which focused on student mobility back then. Even now, a big student organization even today. And I loved the fact that people could essentially move across borders and learn more about cultures. And I loved the whole migration piece because my parents had migrated from UP to Delhi. I had seen immigration happen to different countries, and people kind of lead their lives in a very different way, in a far more fulfilled manner. And that theme kind of stuck with me for a very long time. Fast forward to about 2014 when I was at ISB, I realized that the other theme that was kind of really touching my heart was mentorship, because I had seen that. If somebody gets a right mentor in their life, not just their life, but the entire family's life can be completely transformed. And I realized that while I was an extrovert, I could write 100 LinkedIn emails and be okay with 5 people responding to it. A lot of people aren't. So I always thought about, hey, can I democratize this access to mentorship? Because if somebody would have the right mentor to themselves, they can really kind of do magic will happen. So this is how we kind of started off. Leverage Edu was Leverage before in 2014-15, and we were a mentorship marketplace where anybody could kind of come in, get some gyan from a mentor on the platform, and it was monetized by way of merchants redeeming karma points that mentors would get by every single mentorship that they would give. So from this, as you followed the ecosystem as well, it's like 12, 13, 14 were the bull years, 15, 16 were the bear years. And that's when a much younger me got to hear from VCs that, hey, you know what, like, where the fuck is the monetization? Like, dhanda kahan hai and all of those things. And I realized that whether the trend changes or not, I would really like to kind of build a company which is very grounded, which is very revenue first. So took a gap, of course. Came. I was in the US for a fellowship. Came back from there, joined Snapdeal, worked in another company called BabaJob.com, and then started Leverage Edu again in 2017 January. And we started with three categories. So we said that the same mentorship marketplace will kind of hit home, but with three categories. One was for career guidance of middle school students. Second was university admissions, and third was that students could essentially reach out to mentors for help on their first job. Within the first 3 months, we saw that the university admissions category became a big game changer because there was nothing like this out there in the market. People were still using these your favorite counselor down the road to get help on university admissions, and these were people who hadn't kind of gone out themselves. They were largely helping people write better English. So here came a differentiator where we went out and said that you know what, you get help from somebody who's actually been in your shoes. If you're from a Kanpur, I match you to somebody who's also from a Kanpur, EPL to EPL, Sufi to Sufi. So that as a mentee, I really feel this relatability kick in, and I can get help from somebody who I really aspire to be like. And the mentor also kind of feels close to a person who they feel, you know what, 5 years, 6 years back in the day, I was really like this person as well. I want to help this person get to my level. So that's how we kind of started the business. started focusing more on the university admissions piece within the mentor marketplace, a differentiator. And then we realized that university admissions in itself is such a huge solar system of its own kind, and it will take us a long while to essentially grapple all of those pieces. So we started with doing only MBA admissions in the US, then focused on STEM admissions in the US, then started doing STEM courses across the world. And now today, about like 3 years plus in the journey, we do all courses across all universities, and both helping Indian students get to both Indian universities and to universities all across the world. And over the journey, we have also kind of built out a very fantastic product suite, which ensures that students' journey is much more streamlined and they're kind of able to get through the whole process in a far more comfortable manner. Because the larger theme always was from day one, how can you be more student first in something that you're doing in the space? And we had seen a lot of people try to do K-12, but higher education is slightly tougher to build that because it takes time to build modes. It takes time to prove that to VCs if you're looking to kind of raise money very, very quickly. But yeah, every day of execution in this business is a moat in itself. And I think that is something that has held us in good stead till now, and hopefully will in the future too. So yeah, so I've given you, I've
That's a
tried to
that's
give
a
you a quick
that's a
summary.
that's a great summary, I must say. Akshay, what's the kind of market size that we're looking at here, Akshay?
Sure. So the two ways to look at market size. If you look at the overall spend that students do in terms of the higher education, it runs up to about $75 billion plus. We today primarily focus on the aspect of the student crossing the line and getting to the university. So just to kind of take a step back, you have to look at it in terms of, uh, for example, my favorite company in the startup ecosystem is a company called Grab in Singapore, which focused on doing multiple things, but which said that, you know what, I'm going to focus on one category, make sure that I build a moat in this category, and then essentially build other categories on the shoulders of other giants on top of it. Because it's very important for the user to kind of come in and get hooked for that one core piece. So for us, that core piece is university admissions, and there are multiple ancillary services that kind of get kicked in as you help this person get to the other side of the university. Before you help them get into the university, so we have a higher education information portal, which is right now, which has about million plus people who come onto the platform every single month. There's a lot of premium information which you can visit. You have the videos, there's a search toolbar. Yeah, you can search about any career, any higher education option. You can look at videos, you can look at blogs, you can look at FAQs, and then you essentially move to an enrolled student. And once the student essentially works with a mentor and a head coach on a platform and gets to a university of their choice, that's when all the ancillary services kick in as well. So the student needs a loan, education loan. The student needs an accommodation option. If abroad, the student needs a visa services option to kick in. Before the student is essentially going through, they could look at some test prep service that they want to kind of hack if they want to get to the university, and so on and so forth. So we are essentially focusing on the core university admissions piece, but we're building these ancillary services as well. Not all together, but just kind of focusing on one at a time and doing it through partners right now. And like time and traction would tell us what to focus on. Still on, not to kind of copy Jeff Bezos, but still very much on day zero of the journey.
That's a great thought. Tell me, Akshay, I think you've been the most luckiest one in the entire ecosystem, at least in the bracket that you're trying to solve the problem. You've been successful in raising funds, and your secret sauce has always been the process that you aligned for yourself. Would you like to tell us what makes you different, or what gives you a competitive edge over your competitors?
Yeah. So to be very honest, we largely while we do have competitors in the digital space as well, a bunch of them growing up right now, we know because our website is copied every single month by somebody or the other, and we didn't essentially have to send them a legal notice to take it down. But our larger competitors are brick and mortar folks who have been in the space for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I think the only difference here is that a lot of these guys see themselves as a recruitment agency for the universities, or they see themselves as uh, essentially working more along the lines of interest of other stakeholders as compared to the students. Whereas our mission and vision always from day one was that students should be winning. We're okay with essentially getting somebody to essentially take a discount on what they're offering, but we won't essentially tell the student to not focus on what is right for them. And we have tried to essentially, we don't just say this, we have essentially tried to prioritize this also in how we run the business. For example, when a student gets into the leverage to journey, just like you would have a CIBIL score, right? So we have a score that the student gets between 300 to 800. And based on that score, we tell them that, hey, you know what? This is where you can get to. These are the kind of universities that you can get to based on your score right now. Either we apply with this and we get you to the university of your choice, or we can essentially spend some time on your profile. You can do a couple of courses online. We can put you through a bunch of internships. We work with about 54 partners to help them build up their profile. And then about 6 months or 8 months of the next cycle onward as well, we can help you apply to a slightly better college, slightly like one grade above college, a tier one college, a tier two college. And I think that has been, I don't know if it can be called a secret sauce, but I think that's definitely helped us align more students on a platform as compared to anybody else. The fact that we have built out a brand as a company in at least in India today, and more specifically in the five cities that we're present in, that hey, there is this company which is not going to just push you to a random course. This is a company which essentially helps you figure out what career is right for you. They're going to tell you if culinary arts is right for you. I'm not going to tell you to do an MBA. If sports management and sports nutrition could be game changing for you, if the first job that you get can be in a Chelsea as compared to a KPMG, might as well you go in that direction. And that is something that I think we've really kind of been successful in. The larger success will come when we can essentially democratize this access a much larger set of students in our country in tier two, tier three, tier four cities. So we are making those
So
headwinds right
Akshay,
now.
this has also been a personal experience of mine. I think. Sorry to just interrupt you there,
No, no, sure,
because you
sure,
added
sure.
that word secret sauce. I said the greatest of the companies that have been built and the ones which you are using at this point of time. I think their secret sauce has also been very fairly simple. That the secret sauce has been simple. They are only focused on execution. There's nothing different. They're not doing anything different. They just do things differently. I think that's always been
Correct.
the core of
Well said.
any company, which at least in my personal experience. Uh,
Well said. Well said.
Akshay, Akshay, what's been the impact of COVID on your business?
Sure.
What's the kind of sentiment that you're seeing in the market? Are parents still
Sure.
willing to send their kids out? And
So,
what's
so
been the
let me take a
response from the
step back.
students?
So let me take a step back, Giri, and break our student demographic into three parts for you. One is students the top category of students are those who are looking at Ivy League or equivalent universities. These are people who haven't ever had a better chance at applying to schools. Because somebody who could get to an ISB yesterday can now get to a Wharton. Somebody who could get to a Wharton can now have a shot at Stanford or Harvard. Universities are taking two steps back and saying they're trying to be accommodative. They want to also make sure that they are there for the student. They're doing these GMAT waivers, GRE waivers. So that category hasn't seen too much of a wherewithal at our end right now. Also because Giri, we are not in the business on that side of making money from education loans or accommodation options or doing something at the university. So even if say there's a delay in starting the university session, uh, student has already engaged with us and they want to make sure that they make the best use of it and they have the admission in their pocket, and then they can choose to kind of defer it or keep it with themselves or go not go, start the session late, do first semesters online and whatnot. The second sort of student who comes onto our platform is a student who is not as academically inclined as the first category, but they still want to go to like great schools in the UK, US, Canada, Australia, everywhere. And these are students. These are people who you and I would essentially see as well, who have gone to some really good colleges outside the top 50 universities. And so these are people who are saying that who are in the wait and watch category. On to these guys, we have started the India platform about 3 months back, where we are now telling these guys that hey, if you are not if you're not going to an Ivy League or equivalent university, you can go to a great university in India as well. And these are your options. And that's why we are kind of also partnering with more and more Indian universities and helping them with their outreach. Category three is students, more specifically on study abroad, which have two subsets. Either they are people who are looking to do a course which is not available in the domestic ecosystem, like I told you, a luxury fashion management, or a construction engineering, or a sports management at St. Mary's in London, or nutrition in Melbourne, or something which is in the space category in California or in Canada. So these courses are not available in the domestic ecosystem. So the day the borders open up, they're the first guys who are gonna kind of go out. The second subset in this category is people who are looking to immigrate to another country, be it the US, be it other parts of North America, be it other parts of Asia, be it Europe, be it Australia, be it New Zealand. Here we are seeing that this category is in fact thriving. These are people who are seeing that, boss, India has not been able to bend their curve yet, but all other countries have. New Zealand is in a no COVID situation right now. Germany is in a no COVID situation right now. We are seeing the numbers swell up like crazy for Germany and New Zealand right now. In fact, German universities have increased their eligibility criteria from 70% to 85% right now. And that is all like that is all also making education abroad tougher for the average student. But yeah, this is a category which is thriving, and we will essentially see all kinds of students do all kinds of things. And our focus is to make sure that we are there by the student, whatever they choose to do, whether they choose to do their studies in India, whether they choose to do their studies at an Ivy League college, or whether they kind of choose to immigrate to another country or do a biodiversity of course in some other country, or if they essentially want to change their destination from a US to a Germany now, or from a Italy to a Canada, or from a say Asia, or from a China to a UK or to a New Zealand, so on and so forth.
So Akshay, there's a lot of AI component that goes beyond,
Hmm.
right from
Hmm.
choosing which university or which course is right for a
Hmm.
certain candidate, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And in my observation, AI has been passed around multiple times in last few years, and the word has been taken for granted as just like I don't want to stretch further on that, but so what do you think is the real contribution of AI in your business, and what are you doing
Sure.
with it? How is it adding value to your process? Over to
Sure,
you.
Giri. No, Giri, great question. So if I have to kind of speak about the product suite that we have at Leverage Edu, out of that, AI will have a contribution about 5 to 6%. There are multiple things that we run. Primarily, we have a one view dashboard through which every student logs in. A lot of analytics sits in there, and they're able to see what universities have been matched to them using AI. What do they do with these universities now? How do they speak with mentors? Does the analytic tell them that if they are interested in ABC University, they would like to attend a session also from ABC University that is going to happen, a webinar that is going to happen, a seminar that is going to happen? Would they like to do this additional course which is going to help them get to this university? So all of that is not AI. That is one of our core products. And we have something called UniConnect, which we launched about 2 months back. A large part of universities across the world, Giri, hire recruit students by way of coming to their countries and giving students an option of speaking to them directly and understanding what course, what program is right, what is not right for them, what fits in well, can they get scholarships. Due to the COVID times, unfortunately, these universities can't travel anymore, and students are not getting an option to go to these education fairs and speak directly to universities. So we launched something called me and our CEO, Digvijay Gagneja, Chief Operating Officer, who joined in about 6 months back. We were in the UK in February, and we could see every British tablet that we could pick. We would see that COVID cases were kind of rising, and we said that, boss, ये तो India में भी आने वाला है काफी जल्दी. Let's kind of be ahead of the game. And we built out a product called UniConnect in about 20 days flat. And UniConnect is now helping hundreds of universities from around the world get to thousands of students in every single fair that happens, and directly kind of helping them apply to universities in one go at the click of one button. So I took the opportunity to kind of talk more about the entire product suite that we have. We're also launching an app which is called Career Tree, which is one-to-one mentorship and career guidance for the students in their middle school, senior school right now. So yeah, AI is an important part, but it's not more than 5 to 6% of the overall product suite.
I think it's great that you say that, and it's such a simplistic manner you put it, and you were
But to
too
be
smart to put that.
But to be honest, Giri, we always had this narrative. But as you know, AI part gets picked up more quickly than everything else. So it is just that. तो हम काफी बार हमको लोग इसमें मारते भी थे कि यार तुमने कितना एआई किया है, ये नहीं किया है. तुमने बोला यार हमने तो बोला ही नहीं है, हमने तो यार इतना एआई किया है. हम the AI algorithm help students understand what's the right university for them, and then helps them align with the right mentor, so that the person is working with the right mentor mapped to them, and that's about it. And there are a lot of other things that the platform does, a lot of other things that happens manually as well. But that depends on the media. They want to they want to talk about
Correct.
AI, so I can't be complaining. All publicity is good publicity.
Akshay, what's your fundraising experience been like, and what's your advice to entrepreneurs who are raising funds in these difficult times, or generally also on fundraising
Sure.
part of it?
Uh, sure. So I will have a different answer for generally and for now. Generally for me is and I break this on into, in fact, I've spoken about this before, into two. There are two scenarios. One is you can act like a pretty girl, pretty boy, and sit in the corner of the room. A lot of people have successfully done it and raised millions of dollars in the Indian ecosystem too. And believe that that's an advice that I get a lot of times, that you know what, VC is like dating a girl and dating a boy, and you kind of make sure how much you want to communicate and all of that, and then you wait in a corner for yourself. Second strategy is to essentially be like an LIC insurance agent जो पीछा ही नहीं छोड़ता है. I'm not saying कि पीछे पड़ जाओ बिल्कुल VC के या किसी investor के, but the point is that politely reach out to as many people as you can and tell them your story. So and I realized that even if I want to, my personality and my style does not allow me to be the pretty girl or the pretty boy in the corner of the room. So when I was raising funds, I went out to, in fact, in the first round that we raised, our angel round, I reached out to about 85 people, and we had 22 people who essentially signed up, and we had a large cap table. We have given them a lot of them successful exits in the last two rounds, VC rounds, and when it was time to kind of raise VC, I remember I reached out to about 22 to 25 VCs, and we had five term sheets that came out of the entire process. But the beauty is that one of the people who we are working with closely, Bloom Ventures, weren't a part of those first five term sheets. But I was a big fan of Karthik Reddy. I had seen him tweet in support of founders, and I realized that I really want to work with this guy. So I went back to him and said, "Hey, you know what? Like I have a bunch of term sheets now, so पैसा तो आ गया है, but काम आपके साथ करना है. Do you think you can make it work?" And so he did. And I've realized in hindsight that it's very important that you choose the people you want to work with. Same with DSG Consumer Partners, work with Deepak Shadatpuri and his team. And the fact that they understand our vision about building a consumer brand in this category in India has been really helpful. We had another fund which was kind of coming into play later last year, and existing investors were so bullish that they said, "Hey, you know what? We can give you a better valuation and we'll come in and lead another round." So I think those parts would not have happened had we not been conscious enough about choosing the right investors at first go. And I think that's pretty much my advice, general. That hey, you kind of go out, go all in, hustle as hard as you can, be politeful, be respectful, try to understand what the investor really needs, try to meet only those investors who will understand what you want to do, where you kind of your thesis fits in. Don't go to an enterprise VC with a consumer brand product. At the same point of time, make sure that you are very thorough and you make the best of the 30 minutes that you get every single time. Because VCs have a certain structure in which they want to understand the problem. So you might as well break that down into structure, tell them about how big the business can become, and also kind of make them believe that there is nobody else better than you to solve that business problem and make it the biggest business that it ever can be in this space. In fact, I was writing an email to one of my existing board members about a new product that we're launching. And I actually wrote that. I said that this is by far, I wrote it in capital letters. This is by far the best product ever made for universities, and no one will ever make a better product. Like I'm putting my blood on top of that. So I think, and I think that confidence in term comes from the conviction that you have with your team, like you said beautifully when I commented on the beautiful interface of the app. You said that hey, it all goes out to the team. I think it's pretty much similar. The fact that you get to work with the right people, that also gives you confidence that you will essentially make sure that you are the best in the market. Just a bit on the last piece where you spoke about right now. If I was raising money right now, I would, uh, and I think these tailwinds were there from the last 6 months, 8 months itself. I would want my unit economics to look very, very positive. I would want to do a business which is 50 to 60% gross margin plus, and be at least moving in an EBITDA positive direction, and be able to tell the VC that boss, I have the money. मुझे पैसे की जरूरत नहीं है, but I want you as a partner. I want you as a partner to grow my company more quickly and get to that metric 3 साल की जगह 1 साल के अंदर, and that's why I want to part with you. So that's what I would do today, and not necessarily be a company which is running out of money and then go to a VC and say that पैसे खत्म हो रहे हैं पैसे दे दो. I don't think the latter piece would work right now.
I think this is brilliant. I mean, it may sound a little old-fashioned, but it gives me some sort of relief knowing that entrepreneurs today still talk about unit economics. I think that's giving some sort of relief to back to the ecosystem. Lovely, actually. I think that's a
I
great
think
advice
I think things
to
change.
all the
Yeah,
entrepreneurs from your
I
side.
think I think things Yeah, I think things change. If you look at SoftBank also, they talk more about Lenskart now. They talk more about delivery now. And we all know the Lenskart story, right? Nobody spoke about Piyush in such great words till about 4 years back. But now Piyush is the rockstar of the ecosystem, and he's such a great entrepreneur. He's such a big inspiration to all of us. And Lenskart has built
Absolutely.
such a beautiful brand, such a beautiful
Absolutely.
company.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And profitably at that, right? Like about close to 470, 500 crores of revenue at just a notional loss of 20, 22 crores, which is more like a switch on, switch off. So I think those are, you want to build a company. Like my favorite book on entrepreneurship is Phil Knight's autobiography, Shoe Dog. And if you want to build a company which is a lasting institution for a very long period of time, that's the style that you want to essentially pick up on.
That's a lovely thought, Akshay. Akshay, I was always curious. Like for if in case I were to take admission in some of the universities abroad, and if I were to
Hmm.
have no idea besides tuition, besides figuring out the right university for me, what are some of the
Hmm.
other ancillary services that you help students with? Is it the
Sure.
accommodation? Is it the kind of finding the right interest? Over to you.
Hmm. So, so Giri, so today we have, like I told you, right, the beginning of the platform is our leverageable.com search toolbar, which helps you understand multiple things in terms of what's the right career for you, what's the right higher education option for you, what destinations are right for you, what tests do you want to take? Do you want to take a GRE, a GMAT, an IELTS, a TOEFL, or whatnot? If you're an undergraduate student, do you want to take your ACTs, do you want to do your APs, so on and so forth. So that piece, which essentially leads into a free career counseling that our platform gives to every single person who comes onto our platform. There's a free career counseling. I have been scoffed at by brick and mortar players to do these things. Hey, why do you have a free platform and burn money on that? Why do you have a platform that gives free counseling to every single person? But I think that that has paid for us, that is continues to pay for us right now, that will continue to pay for us in the longer run as well. And then essentially, once the student gets an admission, which is led by the mentor and the head coach on a platform, the mentor being essentially somebody who they are mapped to based on their personalized profile. Post that, we are right now partnering with multiple players. For example, we partner with multiple banks, NBFCs, foreign financial aid providers to help these guys with education loans. Same thing for accommodation options. Same thing with immigration help with regard to visa and everything else. Same with regard to also helping these guys have a mentor work with them once they are in the university to help them understand what courses to take, how to apply for the first job, so on and so forth. So everything that happens post the enrollment is an ancillary services for us today. We don't completely focus on it, but we still provide it as a value add to make sure that the student journey is very well covered. But the core focus still happens to be the university admissions business, making sure that they kind of cross over to the other side.
Akshay, everybody has personal learnings, specifically during the lockdown phase. What's
Hmm.
your personal and professional reflection been, specifically in this time?
Uh, Sure. No, I think personal has been, I was being very honest, I was not a very big believer of remote working. I always thought that we will lose productivity when that would happen, but I have been pleasantly surprised. And how? I have been very, very pleasantly, overwhelmingly surprised. And I think it's going to be an interesting question for us as we are looking to open up our offices now. How much should we open? How should we go about in terms of expansion when we're launching a new city? Do we really need to be there as a digital company? We did not see our revenues decline during this period. We are among the few companies who are hiring even right now. We have about 52 open positions on our platform even today. We are aggressively. I am spending 2 hours of my every day taking interviews of people who are okayed by squad heads, and so that's been, I think, a big professional realization. A personal realization for myself has been that while remote work is great, it does not personally give me the opportunity to create serendipity, and I think that's a big win for entrepreneurs in particular. A lot of things have happened just because I've taken the gut call to not do this meeting on a Zoom, but go to Bombay and do it in person. Go to Bangalore and do it in person. And yeah, it's a lot of traveling for sure. A lot of people would say that, hey, you know what, does this traveling really help? You could do the same thing on a Google Meet or a Zoom. But I think when you meet somebody in person, when you kind of just show up, that shows your sincerity, that shows the fact that this really matters to you, and also the opportunity to kind of connect on personal things, which, like I said, creates serendipity. So I've realized that everything is too planned. I have my calendar completely choked from 9 a.m. all the way to midnight plus, and that does not give me the chance to kind of do things which which would have essentially happened by chance, just because of the jovial way in which things would have flown. So yeah, on that note, I hope things, at least the travel part, kind of returns back to normal very soon, or maybe becomes even better. And I would look forward to that serendipity as well.
That's lovely, Akshay. I think now welcome to the most favorite part of my discussion. Whenever
Hmm.
I roll my sleeves up, that means that I want to start asking. I don't want to get diplomatic about anything, and I want to start asking honest, random questions. And you've
Sure.
been very candid all this while. Give us a non-diplomatic answer, and I'm putting it in a star mark.
Huh.
non-diplomatic answer on what do you think is the relief package of government of 20 lakh crores. How do you think it's going to benefit the MSMEs? Or do you think it could have been planned in a better way? You could be completely non-diplomatic again. Over to you, sir.
यार यार मैंने बड़ा सिंपल आंसर है मेरा, इतना लंबा आंसर नहीं है इस पे। मैंने अप्लाई किया हुआ है लोन के लिए। मतलब सरकार दे रही है पैसा तो 100% लेना चाहिए,
We'll have
फॉर
another
श्योर।
interaction after 3 months and you will still say कि it's still in process.
I hope I convert that money into the bank. But no, honestly, I think it's very encouraging to see what other governments have done, what Singapore has done, what Canada has done, and I'm a big believer in our Prime Minister, and I hope this comes to fruition, and a lot of smaller companies, startups like us, are able to make use of grants like these, because this gives us the opportunity to kind of push the envelope and not take a backseat and continue to hire, continue to employ people. And I think that is going to be very, very relevant if we want to kickstart the economy. Have more startups slash MSMEs, whatever category you want to put us in, hire more aggressively, expand more aggressively, and kind of continue to be their former selves.
Beautiful, beautiful. What's your advice to investors having the luxury of choosing between five term sheets? So, what's your advice to investors, man? How can we be less nerdy, less fidgetive? What's your advice back to them?
I'm saying this answer can be very long. This can be a long discussion in itself. Uh, can you hear me
Summarize
now?
it for us in a one or two line. Yeah, yeah, perfect,
Okay.
perfect.
Uh, yeah, I think.
I represent the other fraternity, by the way. Just reminding you. I represent the other fraternity, by the way.
Yeah, I know, I know. I think, no, I think just a summary would be, uh, I think I won't categorize all investors, but let me kind of keep myself restricted to VCs. Let me not touch Series C onwards, and let me not touch the angel community on the angel community as well. Let me kind of restrict myself to pre-Series A to Series C, where the VCs kind of move about. I think very important for VCs to think about. Not that I'm like somebody to kind of take advice from, but to understand the reward versus risk proportion. You need to know what a Series C company looks like, what a Series B company looks like, what a Series A company looks like, what a pre-Series A company looks like. A lot of times when things go well, we see companies which are not even ready for a seed check, get a Series A, Series B check because the going is very well. Many times when the things are like supremely wrong and the macros aren't working out, we see a seed company being subjected to the same horrors that a Series B or Series C company would, in terms of the diligence, in terms of uh, uh, around traction that they have in terms of revenue, around their EBITDA, and all of those metrics that essentially will be more relevant to a company which has kind of grown up and tested out its product and is kind of on a journey of scale right now, exponentially growing its revenue. So I think a very interesting, and I think it will be very useful if even one investor hears out this plea that measure your reward against the risk that you're taking. If you're taking a Series A risk, kind of evaluate the company for a Series A company. Don't evaluate them for a Series C company. And make sure that the good times and the bad times are both kind of even. I don't know if it will make a difference, but you wanted two words and here they are.
Who is the celebrity you would like to hire as a brand ambassador for your company?
अरे यार, रणवीर सिंह.
Sure, sure,
I
sure.
would use the word partner. I would not say hire. I would use the word partner. Huh?
I hope you'll be the most luckiest entrepreneur in the ecosystem then.
My favorite actor is Shah Rukh Khan, but
Sure.
unfortunately he's already been taken away by Baidu, so can't do much about it.
Next, if you were to build a company every new year, or if you were to continue the leverage journey, what would you choose and why?
Okay, leverage journey every single time, every single time. No,
And why?
it's just that Giri, two kinds of entrepreneurs. One who focus on doing entrepreneurship by listening on a bunch of ideas and then seeing whichever is more, which can be the most valuable company, which can help me kind of raise VC money very quickly and all of those pieces. And second type of entrepreneurs are those where companies start from something that you kind of personally believe in, which has kind of personally affected you a lot. This whole piece, my parents moved from a tier 2 city to a tier 1 city. I myself have gone through lack of mentorship and the fact that a mentor comes into your life and completely changes everything for you, and your family's life is transformed when your life kind of gets leveled up. And for those reasons, leverage is kind of very personal for me. It's more than just a few metrics for me. It's about the larger impact as well, and hence the leverage journey every single time. I follow in the other bracket.
What's your last question? What's
Sure.
your thought and advice to entrepreneurs who are going through these tough times? And how would you advise them to weather the situation at this point of time?
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to number one, be very, 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 very thorough with their numbers, and make sure they have money in the bank till March 2022. Not 1 year, not 1.5 years, like a full 2 financial years. Have money in the bank. It's okay if you're able to raise funding in September 2020. It's okay if you're able to raise funding in March, July, August. But nobody's going to judge you for revenues that you make in financial year 2020. Uh, So make sure that you have container when the weather kind of completely opens up. Second is make sure that you're doing something extra for your consumers during this time, even if it is not kind of opening up all your services, because your consumers are going to really remember you once they come out of this, and they're going to keep that loyalty to a brand absolutely intact. And I think that will really make the difference, because building a company is not about 1 or 2 years, it's a 10, 15, 20-year journey. And you might as well take this as an opportunity to kind of innovate, to be by your customer's side, and also kind of make sure you focus more on finance than you would have in beautiful times like 2018 or 2014 when capital was flush.
Akshay, if there's an entrepreneur whom you'd like to be featured on Leher Journey,
Uh, the, Vishal Gondal from Goki.
sure,
He's
sure, we'll get him soon.
he's by far the entrepreneur I have learned the most from, and he tells me things as is. He does not sugarcoat them. So I'm always prepared to have Vishal call me at 2 a.m. and abuse the fuck out of me. And and that has completely that has helped me so many times in my life. And I have a lot of mentors like that. But I think Vishal by far is one of the most beautiful and vision-driven entrepreneurs I have had the fortune of knowing in my life. And he's on his way to building the biggest healthcare company in India. It's already $100 million company, more than $100 million, of course. Akshay Kumar is a brand ambassador, who's the biggest health icon of this country. They're doing some great work, and yeah, I think he will have really interesting stories to share on this video cast slash podcast.
I think Akshay, I couldn't be more thankful to you for sharing your journey with us today.
No, thanks,
I think this
Giri.
has been a
Really
brilliant
enjoyed this.
discussion. I was definitely looking forward to this.
No, thanks, Giri.
Thanks so much, Akshay, for taking
There
your
are a
time
bunch
out.
of there are a bunch of conversations. This was probably the one I enjoyed the most as well. I'm glad you reached out, and I'm glad we did this.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Akshay. Take care. See ya.
Thanks, Giri. Pleasure. Yeah, look forward to being in touch.
Thanks. Take care. See ya.
See you.
Thanks so much. Bye. Take care.
Catch you. Bye. Take care.